Cash flow-based lending is the third, the most important, and the most frequently used method by which financial institutions extend loans. So, cash flow-based lending is based on the borrower's present cash flows, taking into account high and low seasons. And what the financial institutions do is they extend a loan based on the capacity of the borrower to repay that loan. So if a borrower has got cash flows, hypothetically, of 10 million, they say to themselves, if we extended X amount, would those cash flows be sufficient to service the interest and the principal repayments on that loan? Cash flow-based lending. So the repayment schedule on cash flow-based lending is based on the borrower's timing of the cash flows. And whilst collateral is taken into account, it is not a primary consideration. It may come through as a secondary or third consideration, but the primary consideration are the cash flows that are generated by the lender. Hence the term cash flow-based lending. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of cash flow-based lending? Let's run through the advantages first. Firstly, with cash flow-based lending, the risk of default due to a diversion of proceeds is minimized. It's greatly minimized. In addition to that, the loan size and the terms and the repayment schedules are specifically based on the client's cash flow, which makes the lending process less riskier and far more robust. A third advantage, cash flow-based lending can be tailored for specific client requirements. Let me give you an examples. If a client wants a long-term fixed loan and that loan will only be invested in capital assets that will yield cash flows 12 or 18 months from now, it can be tailored towards the specific client requirements. Or a contrasting example, if the client is simply looking for working capital funding, the loan can also be tailored for short-term working capital. Some of the disadvantages are that the process of credit evaluation and decision making is sometimes a bit more onerous than with asset-based lending. You have to verify that those cash flows that have been given as historical are legitimate, valid, and will carry forward into the future. And that usually takes a bit more time than with pure asset-based lending. In addition, it's a bit more conservative, and with cash flow-based lending, you have much more conservative loan sizes. The loans tend to be a little bit smaller, which is good for the financial institutions because it means they don't have as much exposure, but it's not as good potentially for the client because it means the ability to raise debt funding becomes somewhat restricted.